on the latest episode of Ragdoll, a break in the Ragdoll case and a discovery of what happened to the mayor sows distrust and further complicates the ongoing investigations. In topic one, a break in the case, we learned that what caused the mayor to die is because people in the witness protection program, they had a member of the protection program who was under the influence of the Faust. Now, if you remember, the Faust is who Nathan called in the last episode in order to get Mark Cooper killed. And apparently, he's working down the line, and the way he operates is he has information on people and uses that information for them to do his bidding. So, in the case of the mayor, he used an officer named Copley or Copley in order to get the mayor's inhaler swapped out with something that had sulfur in it. So then when it came to him smoking and lighting up that match, it burned him from the inside out. Now, while that discovery leads to issues between the witness protection program and the cops, that's not the only issue the cops have. Lake, who still has had a terrible time trying to bond with people because she wants to push her political views. She wants to try to throw Nathan under the bus. She's just not winning friends. And as much as Emily wants to try to help her acclimate to the situation, after some point, Emily is kind of like, there's only so much I can do before your issues are going to start to affect my job. So while she tries to help her navigate, all that Lake has right now is the fact that she's committed to the work and trying to use that to compensate for her personality, which nobody really likes. But as noted, because of her commitment, things are starting to happen, and she discovers that one of the body pieces, the one that had the tattoo on it, through the tattoo artist, she discovers who the person is. And because of that, she is able to learn that Mark Cooper's probationary officer, Michelle Fielding, she is one of the pieces of the Ragdoll. But following that up, we also learned that D.I. Chambers now, when it comes to D.I. Chambers, it seems that Nathan or somebody else in the department is going to handle talking to his wife. But Michelle, when it comes to her mother and parents, it seems Lake did, and she didn't show good bedside manners, so automatically consider that another mark on the person. But if it's any consolation when it comes to Lake, she at least knows that, excuse me, while she is persona non grata now, we learned that D.I. Chambers has been feeding information to Andrea for who knows how long. So while she might be at the bottom of the totem pole now, at least somebody new may come up into the conversation that make her seem less of an ass. Topic 2 deals with Emily revealing that she's the one that wrote the letter that ultimately led to Nathan being put into a psychiatric facility, doing the Mark Cooper case, and having Mark get demoted. So, long story short, we have seen throughout episode 1 and part of episode 2 that Nathan deals with PTSD because of the investigation into Mark, seeing people get set on fire and things like that. What he didn't know is, or what we didn't know until now, is that Emily was on that case with him and she was new at the time. So because of that, she was witnessing so much that was out of her control, and she wasn't sure how she was contributing, if she was doing anything helpful, really. So this one thing, her supervisor, cutting corners and things like that, she reported that to have some type of contribution, some type of control of the situation. But being that she's both a woman and a person of color, she naturally was not going to put herself out there and potentially ruin her career. So instead, D.I. Chambers took it up, signed his name on her letter, sent that off to Andrea, and then you saw what happened. Nathan jumped over the barrier, beat the hell out of Mark, got his career put on pause, got demoted, psychiatric facility, yada, yada, yada. 2 years later, here we are. Emily's higher ranked than him now. He's back on the force, and despite all that happened, strangely, Nathan's not that mad. If anything, he's more understanding than you think he would be, because she pretty much ruined his life, ruined the biggest case of his career. And yet, it's almost like because he doesn't really have any friends that get him or that will hang out with him, he just lets it go. And when I say let it go, I mean those two are still in this weird space where they hang out at her house, get drunk, he sleeps over. She kind of invites him away to sleep in her bed, but I don't know if it means with her in it, or maybe she sleeps on the couch and he in the. Either way, their relationship still has one of those blurred lines where you're not sure what exactly they are to each other besides close. So, topic 3 deals with knowing who is in control when it comes to the Faust. Now, as of now, the Faust, we only hear his voice. We don't see him at all. Assuming it's him because, for what we know, they're using some type of voice scrambler. Excuse me. But what is definitely clear is that Nathan is trying to gain some type of control of the situation, and to do so, since his name is on the list, he threatens to kill himself. Problem with doing that is, by trying to force the Faust hand, the Faust tells him straight up, if you keep trying to mess up with my plan, I'm going to kill Emily in your place. And with that, Nathan backs off. However, Nathan doesn't back off when it tries to save the people on the list. And the next person on the list is Nick Hooper, Mark's little brother, who pretty much, he's not walking in his brother's footsteps in terms of trying to murder people, but he is also a delinquent criminal, I should say. But when it comes to Nick, his crime is he tries to deal drugs. He's not that good at it. He just did an 18-month bid for it. And he's not really that old. He's somewhere in his 20s, and he's already like screwed up for life. But between the witness protection program and then also the cops, everybody's trying to get to him and try to protect him. But in the long run, neither one are successful. You see, a woman named Alyssa, who's a lawyer, a high-priced lawyer at that, she gets retained by Nick by means that don't make any sense. But it does make sense once you realize she ends up killing Nick, and then he's left with a slit on his throat and he's bleeding out. This is shocking for many reasons, because the way that Alyssa seems, you can't really imagine her doing something like that. Yet at the same time, the Faust had something on her. It's not clear what, because as we saw with Copley, I forgot his name already. As we saw with the witness protection officer who led to the mayor's death, they would rather kill themselves than speak. The guy from witness protection, he stabbed himself with a pen thinking he was going to die. Like, if you remember the Dark Knight when Joker did his pencil trick, something like that. Stab himself right in the head, have a pencil or pen go right through the head and hopefully kill him, but that didn't work, so he's just now being held somewhere. With Alyssa, she wasn't that dramatic. Instead, she just walked in front of some cars and got hit, and then she died. Which now leaves the question of, where exactly is the Faust getting his information from? How is he finding the right people in order to get to these people before witness protection or the police can get to them? And possibly one of the biggest things that we're kind of wondering is, why exactly is the Faust going after people involved with Mark's case at all? Are they somebody that was an escaped victim? Did they know one of the victims? What is their reason for getting involved in this so deeply? Yes, Nathan did say Mark's name, but now Mark's dead and Nathan's at the bottom of the list. And there's all these other people between the Ragdoll and this new list who are involved with Mark. And it's like, why is this huge revenge being played out? So in terms of highlights, right now, the Faust is the biggest highlight because we don't know who it is. We're not really hinted at who it is. And we also haven't seen them yet. We don't see some shadowy figure walking down the street. We don't see some guy or person holding a phone to their head. We have, 4 or 5 lines of dialogue, which is basically Nathan saying, wait your turn, or else I'll put someone in your place. And there's something so good about them keeping the villain secret, because now it's something to look forward to. Not only that, it allows you to keep trying to make up theories about, maybe it's somebody we already know who's the Faust. Maybe it's somebody that'll be introduced later on. Maybe somebody on the list is the Faust. Maybe, who knows? It can't be, I don't think it's somebody in Nathan's head, but the show could easily be playing with us, and who knows if the timeline could be messed up or switched up. But considering all the information that Nathan has, much less all the people that he knew, much never mind people maybe being mad about DA Chambers doing what he did, a cop being involved in having all this information that could blackmail people doesn't sound too far-fetched. I mean, a wiretap, some surveillance, anything could be possible. The second highlight is Emily and Nathan's unique relationship. Right now, we can't really pin down what their relationship is. And there's a certain beauty to that because you can recognize they trauma bonded. Might be, as noted earlier, the reason why Nathan just lets it go that Emily basically ruined his life. He can't deal with the whole idea of getting with somebody new and trying to have them understand what he's going through, why sometimes he's triggered, and all that other stuff. He'd rather stick to what he knows, forgive and forget, and just keep it moving. Now, Emily seems to have a little bit of trauma PTSD as well, but not as much. And it does lead you to wonder when it comes to those weird, intimate moments between them, should we just see it like a brother and sister, maybe like a mentor, mentee? All very hard to decipher, but it also makes their relationship all the more complex and more interesting to watch just to see how it can evolve and whether or not in the end it's actually beneficial to both or just beneficial to him. Because as noted to Emily a few times this episode, she's in a vulnerable position that will not allow her the same second chance that Nathan got. If she was to mess up this new Ragdoll case or this new serial killer case, that could be her career. She is a woman, a Black woman, and both Nathan recognizes that, Alyssa did before she killed herself, and whether or not this should be considered foreshadowing or just the show just nodding to the fact that Emily is an other, it's hard to say, but with Nathan being willing to back off of the Faust just to keep her alive, who knows? Maybe he'll throw himself to the wolves. And if Emily ever does come up for being fired or else thrown under the bus for the case not going right. So for on-defense topics, the only on-defense thing we have is really just Leak. And that's just because they're still working out, trying to balance her being a hard, committed worker to her being an annoying American. To me, the balance is still very much off. And I wouldn't say that Leak is completely unlikable, but she is increasingly annoying in a way that makes me not happy to see on screen. Granted, I do recognize that if she's on screen, that means something's probably going to happen. Somebody's about to get angry. Some breaking the case is about to happen. But then I know following that is her going to be doing a more calm and saying something that's just like, shut up already. Just, you're new. Listen. Feel out the room. Know your audience. Por favor. But, you know, she's still new and she's very much herself, which I think we have to applaud that she's herself and willing to bring that person to an environment that's unfamiliar and definitely not necessarily friendly, but I don't know. Just long-term wise, I'm just hoping Lake learns to adapt rather than just force her way into a situation, thinking that just because she has some form of logic when it comes to her opinion is going to change everybody else's mind.